Alright guys, today I wanted to go over my wish list for Solar 3.0. Now the question comes up, are we getting Solar 3.0 or Arc 3.0 next season? Well, the mass consensus amongst the community is that we're getting Solar 3.0, but you never know. And normally you'll get some like key indicators from like upcoming sandbox changes, but there's been sandbox changes on either side, both for Arc and Solar. Today though, we're gonna cover Solar, and I do want to give you my wish list of abilities that I would love to see back in Destiny 2. And this is from Destiny 1. Some of these are going to infuriate you. I know it. So let's just start with the most polarizing super in all of Destiny history. It literally wrecked every single encounter when it came to raids. It also gave many of us PTSD inside of trials, and that is none other than Fireborn. Stated here, Radiance can now be activated from beyond the grave. Doing so returns you to life. Guys, I showed this clip yesterday on stream, but I would actually run straight into a point and just die right on the point. Let everybody get onto the point, come back to life, and immediately go to Pound Town in my super. Now, there were definitely ways to shut down self-res warlocks. You can instantly snipe them when they were self-resing, but you had to anticipate when they were going to self-res. And then, back then, we didn't have visual indicators of what our enemies were using, so you didn't even know if he was a self-res warlock or if he was just rocking Song of Flame or Radiant Skin, but it was always safe to assume that you were dealing with a self-res warlock when they were rocking Sunsinger. Now, obviously, Dawnblade is way more effective in terms of its offensive power and getting those multi-kills. Radiance dramatically increased the effectiveness of your abilities and is paired really, really well with something else that I know many of you don't want to see back in the game, and that is Firebolt grenades, but with Viking Funeral. Guys, at one time, Viking Funeral Firebolt grenades in year 1 of Destiny 1 were the deadliest things in the game. These grenades did so much damage, and then when you combined it with Viking Funeral, they also take tick damage or burn damage. You can imagine all the things that would synergize well here with Viking Funeral, especially considering grenades are opened up for all the classes to use. Imagine popping a Radiant Super and throwing just a boatload of thermite grenades with Viking Funeral, or like a ton of swarm grenades. You just throw them everywhere, man, and they just sit there and lock things down. And then swarm grenades could then apply burn damage with Viking Funeral. You see how crazy things can get? The combination of Touch of Flame, Viking Funeral, and Firebolt grenades at one time was the deadliest grenade in Destiny history. It was so dominant, you would just have to get a single shot off with a weapon, throw one grenade, it had a massive radius, and then you could walk away knowing your opponent would burn out and die. Now, there are ways to combat that now, better than what we had back then. You've got things like Void 3.0, Bastion, you could throw a barricade down. If you're a warlock hit by this burning grenade, you can just throw down a rift and heal yourself, and if you're a hunter, you can just dodge and die. There's multiple ways to combat those super powerful Firebolt grenades that we once had with Viking Funeral and Touch of Flame. It was actually one of the deadliest combinations though, if you were purely trying to annoy your enemy, was Thorn and Firebolt grenades, right? Hitting them with all the damage over time. So that is like my wish list there, although many people will say right off the bat, that breaks the game, especially the self-res part. But let's move on to our Sunbreaker Titans. Guys, hammers have been nerfed, like a lot. Sunspots have been nerfed, and I know we have Loreley right now, but we know a nerf is coming for Loreley. Long story short, I'm not exactly pleased with the state of Sunbreakers. Even with something as broken as Loreley, you still have many people preferring to play Hunter or Warlock over Titan. So for Solar 3.0 to pop for Sunbreakers, we're gonna need some spice. And there's no better ability that did that than the Sun Charge ability for our Titan. Sun Charge, guys, essentially allowed you to hurl yourself forward and make contact with your enemy. And it had this like aggressive hammer smash at the end of it. Your enemies would explode. It would also chain damage to other enemies, and it was one of the main counters to Ionic blinking Stormcallers. And we were very much in like a Stormcaller meta year 3 of Destiny 1. They would blink all over the place, and there was just nothing you could do. However, if you swapped to Sun Charge, you could actually catch them mid-blink, which was pretty amazing. On top of that, it was just a really cool ability. And there's so many Destiny 2 exotics that I would love to see paired with this. Now, another ability that I would like to see, considering Titans are all about overshields, and I know that's kind of a Void thing. At one time, though, we used to have an ability called Firekeeper, which stated while standing in a sunspot, you gain an overshield and your Hammer of Soul lasts longer. Can you imagine something like this with Loreley? Oh, people would lose their mind if you could suddenly pop a barricade, get an overshield, and get 20% more damage. Disgusting. Now, another ability that I want to see is Simmering Flames. Guys, imagine Simmering Flames, which boosts the recharge rates of our grenades and melee abilities when you have a full super. Combine that with Hellfire Heart. Combine that with Roaring Flames. Can you imagine? You would never run out of grenades. You would literally set the world on fire with these grenades, and they would all be stacking up to 3 times with Roaring Flames, doing more and more damage. Now, the last and final ability that I would personally like to see is Flame Seeker. Now, I'm not saying hammers are difficult to land, but do tracking hammers was still very, very nice. You're in a situation where you got a Dawn Blade up in the air, and he's dodging you all over the place. Voila, having a tracking hammer fixes that problem. A ton of really cool abilities there from our Sunbreaker subclass tree from Destiny 1. Whether it comes in this next update or in the final season of this year before Lightfall. And by the way, we're assuming we're going to be getting new aspects and fragments coming in that final season. So we may actually see some of these then. I would love to see these abilities back. Now, moving on to our Gunslinger. Let me say something about Gunslingers back in Destiny 1. Every now and then you would encounter a gunslinging team, all 3 hunters, all playing very coordinated and being absolute hell to deal with. Now, a lot of what we have currently for Gunslinger is in the game. And I think where Golden Gun is for the most part, and I know a lot of people are like, yo, Golden Gun needs an overshield. It's such an effective super for multi-kills, for shutting down other supers. Can I tell you what I want for Gunslingers more than anything? A Blade Barrage buff. If you want to find the weakest link on the Hunter class, it's the Blade Barrage super. It's terrible. Absolutely awful. It's been nerfed multiple times. And I know at one time with things like Shards of Galanor, Blade Barrage was the terror of the Crucible. But as of now, it is awful. But I have a little bit of hope. And that's simply because the Lucent Hive have a Blade Barrage super. And if this is any indication of what we could potentially get, my God, this is the Blade Barrage super you guys want to have. I love it because you can spawn these knives all around you and then target them at a specific person, and they track incredibly well and also do massive amounts of damage. This is way better than the basic Blade Barrage super that we currently have with our Gunslinger. So really, all Bungie has to do for this one is just give us the ability to have this version of Blade Barrage, and we're good. But I will say this, Blade Barrage is so bad that I wouldn't be surprised if Bungie cut it out. So fellas, that is our wish list for Solar 3.0. Again, we should be getting a trailer and a TWAB, giving us more information on this topic, showing us a little bit more of what's coming next week. Will we be seeing sun-charging, self-resin warlocks and cracked Blade Barrage hunters? We're being a tad bit optimistic, I'll admit it. But whether it happens next week or the season after or in the final season of this year, I hope to see all of these abilities back in the game. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.